Welcome to Campo Joe, and welcome to a win. Duval got their first dub. Dave Campo and I are ready to celebrate that, right?
Absolutely. And listen, it's tough to win in the National Football League, and when you do, you enjoy it.
All right, reach forward.
Yeah.
And let's at least get our bobblehead going.
Yeah.
As we welcome
First
you.
opportunity.
Yeah. We had to go 5 weeks before we could finally celebrate the win. But Campo and Joe, here we are. This is what we do. We talk about your Jaguars. We get into everything that we saw. We look ahead. Here is a chance maybe to get closer to 500, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's spend time talking about this win over the hated Indianapolis Colts. I kept the curse alive, Coach. 9 straight wins over the Indianapolis Colts at the bank, and I've been calling it the Colts curse ever since old man Bob Irsay, who you remember as the owner of the Colts, did a screw job on Duval back in 1979. And I've vexed him ever since.
That's right. Well, you've done a good job with it because they are not going very strong when they go in here. That ball game was a tough one, but a win is a win. I can tell you that right now.
All right, so let's go over it. And the first thing I was thinking of, there's so many things that kind of flew through my head, but kind of what you just said is that this is what you're supposed to be able to do if you're a decent football team. You're supposed to have big moments and then answer the bell in big moments. And I like what I saw by and large.
Well, first of all, you hear us, we all talk about it's 4 or 5 plays during the course of a game that make the difference. Well, you take a Trayvon Walker sack fumble, which ultimately led to the win because it was a 3-point game, and we got 3 points out of that before the half.
And a huge momentum swing right there.
Absolutely. And even though we didn't do anything when we first came out, that gave you some excitement, some momentum. Then you look at, as you brought up, Ernest Johnson and the final drive for the field goal, caught a ball right at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage and broke a tackle to make get to close to the first down. They get a first down. They make a couple of good throws, kick a field goal to win the game. And there's a lot more of those in there that you can really point to as critical.
We saw three Jaguar running backs rip through would-be tacklers. We know that Tank had the big run. As a matter of fact, he had multiple big runs. But ETN, Tank, and Dearness were all able to strip a would-be tackler and get those positive yards. So I came out of this game, Coach, and I said, okay, and basically I'm probably stealing from Coach a little bit here when I simply say both of us agree on this. He's the one who came up with the game plan. I just agreed with it. But take the profit, shorten the passing, shorten the throws, make sure you have a higher percentage of completion with shorter throws, and then mix in the running game. And dang if they didn't do it.
Well, first of all, you had to run the football initially, get a little play action going. They did enough. I mean, even that wasn't a great running game for them. But they stuck with it enough to make sure you could get the play action passes and maximum protection. And, they went into the ball game with that in mind. They came out right away and started hitting some quick passes, get the rhythm going and that type of thing. That's what they had to do. They had to take a little pressure off the quarterback, and then they had the opportunities to go downfield with the ball, and he made them. He hit the big passes. And that's what you have to do to win football games, and especially with this team.
Yeah, how I've described it is they needed to take pressure off of Trevor so he could put a little pressure on himself.
Right.
Because he needed to play better, cleaner, more accurate, more quicker decisions needed to be made, and he was able to do that. And he picked those little areas, and it was either to Brian Thomas, it was to Kirk. He used his tight end, he used his running backs, and then obviously the play action helped. All right, so let me ask you this, and we're going to get back to the offense, but you as a defensive guy, offensive players are sitting on the sidelines while Joe Flacco opens up a tidy 10 for 10 in this football game. Right straight down the field, 7 for 7 on the first drive. They get in the end zone. They go for it on 4th down and get in the end zone. At that point, is the offense going, holy crap, we're in for a day. We got to score and score a lot.
Well, I think you're sitting there going, "Whoa, they came out fast." But I don't think at that particular time in the game, I think they felt like they were going to come out and go fast, and they basically did. But they just missed that fourth down play, which again is I don't know where that is. But
the points.
Yeah, I would have taken the points there, especially when you're struggling getting points.
Yes.
So, but at the same time, what they've done on defense last week. Mm-hmm. It kept them in the game. Mm-hmm. This week, it almost cost them the game. They've gone almost completely to bend but don't break, and unfortunately, that doesn't work. And when you don't have a great pass rush, you got to be careful with that. You got to make sure you mix in what you're doing.
Yeah, and they finally did get a little bit of pass rush going late in the first half. The strip sack that you're talking about, right. That was such a big play, and you have educated listeners and viewers of Campo and Joe about what Ryan Nielsen's trying to do with man coverage, mixing it up with zone, and there's no question about it. Joe Flacco walked to the line of scrimmage every single play, it seemed like, Coach, on that first drive and said, "Oh, this is easy. This is easy." Guys were playing so far back because you don't have your full complement of starters out there, and the guys that are still out there, Ronald Darby being one of your starters, has been horrible. He has given up 300 coming into the game, 325 yards of passing on his own, third worst in the National Football League.
Right.
And so Flacco made it look so easy. And then thank goodness for Jaguar fans, they were able to get some pass pressure.
Yeah, and I think in the second half they did get going a little bit better, and that's big. The secondary right now is really struggling. From a defensive standpoint, the safeties, Antonio Johnson is struggling.
Yeah.
And, he made some tackles. He's good as a up front run defender.
Yes.
That's it. When he's back in the back end, he's not a good open field tackler, which really hurts them when you're playing soft zone, when you have to come up and make tackles.
Yeah.
He's not good at that. He's made some mistakes. He got beat by the tight end one-on-one. The first score in the fourth quarter that really kind of got things going.
Yeah.
And Cisco, they're just not playing very well. He's not overlapping very well. He's not in great position all the time. He is a good blitzer. He's another guy up around the line of scrimmage isn't bad. But when he's back there, right now they're putting him up front and letting Antonio Johnson play middle safety, and that's not his strength either.
That doesn't make sense, does it?
They're really struggling. I think they're both struggling.
Okay, so we'll ask what you might do coming up, just to maybe try and shore that up a little bit. But they have been beaten up yardage-wise and points-wise both of these last two games. Now, they only gave up in the low 20s to C.J. Stroud, but then they gave up 34 to Flacco and company this week. They definitely have to change it. But the other part of it is that when you look at the deficiencies, there's no getting away from the fact that they've been down a number of guys, and they're forcing other guys to step in. Would you look at Darnell Savage and maybe move him back to that safety position and maybe put, I don't know, Jari in a nickel, or because all these guys are getting torched at one point or another in the game.
Yeah, and Savage has been back at safety a few times.
Yeah.
One of the things that stuck out to me, a particular situation where they were playing zone, and they had a third down and 4 or 5, and it was one of those, not a check down, but a short route underneath. And on one of them, what they were doing was they were playing a 3 deep, and they were dropping the safety on the strong side down to the hook area, right? They were showing 2 deep and dropping the safety down into the hook area. Cisco did it one time. When he dropped down, he dropped down to about 11 yards deep when it was a third, or 10 yards deep when it was 3rd and 4.
Right.
And they just throw the ball up in front of him. The next time they ran the same play, Savage was at safety, and he came all the way down. They tried to throw the same route, and he knocked the ball out of the guy's hands.
Yeah.
So they're just not executing. And to be honest with you, I could see that move because I don't think our safeties are playing very well. The other problem they have is I'm not sure they're on the same page all the time with the zone man with the corners. The fourth quarter was abominable.
Oh my gosh,
is that the
terrible.
right? Is
Yeah,
that the right word?
It was an abomination.
Yeah. Really, really surprised me. And to me, this is a Nielsen mistake, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They played cover one robber almost all three of those big plays. The one that they hit the tight end on, Cisco dropped down as a robber looking for a crosser route that never came.
No one was there.
He was one-on-one. 26 was one-on-one at a tight end. They beat him there. On both of the long ones, it was man. And on one side, they played man. On the other side, they played zone. So I don't know if 30 busted.
Right.
And the other guy was right playing man and he didn't, or whether Darby busted and played man over there when they were playing zone and 30 came off and Cisco overplayed the crossing route, the deep one. It's a comedy of errors back there right now.
It really is. And Coach, like he cut his teeth on secondary play. And what I'm thinking to myself, the biggest out of all these things we're talking about is that Cisco's not helping anybody.
No.
He's not making up for mistakes. And that could be a Jarian mistake, an Antonio Johnson mistake, any of the guys, Monteric, that are being forced into playing roles that either they're not gifted enough talent or not enough experience. But the bottom line is that Alec Pierce play, the first of two big plays that Flacco had to him, it was Jarian, Cisco, and Antonio all running to catch up to him in the back of the end zone.
Well, the problem was on that one, Cisco's a center fielder.
Yeah.
And he's not overlapping. He's not seeing enough to overlap.
And when you say overlap,
you need to help a one-on-one on the outside.
Right.
That guy's got to be able to overlap.
When you say overlap, he's your saving grace, is what you're saying.
Yeah, he's got to be able to make a play when it's a long, high throw out to the outside. And really, he overplayed the one, as I said earlier. And really, to be honest with you, I don't see him doing anything back there. He's just kind of standing back there, and he was a ball hawk. I don't know what's happened.
And it's so funny because a lot of times we refer to guys playing well, and we say contract year. Well, this is a contract year, and it's actually costing him a big contract as opposed to cashing in on a big one. We'll see where it goes. But Ryan Nielsen, I use the term waterboarded by Flacco because he looked like he was being tortured. At the end, with those two big plays, when they scored, 17 points in 3 minutes and 17
that's
seconds?
Ridiculous.
Something crazy. It looked like he was part of that commercial. Want to get away?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And really, to be honest with you, and this is the last negative thing I'm going to say because I'm a little fired up on that whole thing. But there's no way that should happen. 3 big plays in the fourth quarter to get you back in when you got a 2-score lead. Yeah. That's when you should be playing soft zone.
Exactly.
Not man free with a robber situation where you're one-on-one outside all the time.
It's like I'll give up chunk, but I'm going to make sure everything stays in front of me.
Listen, all I can tell you is I made some mistakes in my day as a coach, but I'll guarantee you one thing. There was never a time in my coaching career when the camera came on me and I was on both knees with my head down, but they had Nielsen.
Oh, my
gosh. They killed him at the end of that after those 2 big plays. Yeah.
They could not take the camera off of him.
Now, I've been on some plays where a guy hit a big play to win a game. I mean, that happens every once in a while, but that was a tough one there, I can tell you.
Oh, my gosh. All right, so like we said, that's the biggest concern. They gave up a ton of yards. It was flipping Flacco. He's one of the more respected Super Bowl winning quarterbacks this game has seen in the last 12.5 years. And he's smart. He can move a little bit. That 3rd and 8 just absolutely drove me crazy when he took off running about as slow as Peyton or Phillip Rivers, and he was still able to truck for 20 yards. All right, so now let's get to this offense. And we started off our podcast basically talking about how they freed Trevor up. But, Coach, the run game when Tank Bigsby was in there, it's clearly better. I'm not trying to bench ETN and say he's lost it or anything like that, but there's no question that the line play has improved. They've kind of basically put it on themselves to create some lanes for these guys, and Tank is loving it right now.
Yeah, I'll tell you, they need them both.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard you say it a number of times since the ball game.
Yeah.
You know, when everybody wants to say, oh, well, I've made the statement, which I agree, which I still agree with, is that as far as a pure running back is concerned, Tank Bigsby is better.
Yeah.
He has better eyes, better cutting ability, has a better feel for when to, that long run, he cut right at the right time.
Perfect.
And it was kind of interesting because I was listening to the post-game show, and Fred Taylor, they were talking to Fred. He's on the post-game show right after the game. And, they said, Fred, we heard you say when he was getting ready to make the cut, he said, make the cut. And he did, because it looked like Fred Taylor, in a number of situations. Even that 20-yard run looked like Fred Taylor.
And that was a nice kick out from Cam and off the butt of Ezra, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So to me, he's the better pure runner. Etienne is a slasher and a cutter. He's going to get you yardage if there's any kind of a hole because he hits the hole so quickly. You remember the one that Bigsby ran where he only got like 2 or 3 yards, but he ran about 40 yards. He started out and he cut back and he came all the way across all that. Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. But sometimes you got to go straight. When you start going sideways, that's when somebody hits you when you're not ready for it and the ball pops out.
True, very
true.
Well,
the one thing about Etienne, other than the one he fumbled on the goal line that time, he's going straight ahead. Yeah. So, he's going to make yardage most of the time if there's any kind of hole at all. Yeah. And out of the backfield, he's a wide receiver, which really complements this offense, especially early. You saw Trevor getting the ball to him about 4 times because he was taking the profit. Beautiful.
Yeah, and this time he had touch on it, more accurate, because there have been too many of those that I know haunt Jaguar fans where you go, oh, my gosh, just over his hands or just left or just right. And it looked like there was some work put in practice to say, hey, we have got to start making this play. Everybody makes it in the National Football League if they're good. We've got to start making it. The other thing is that I was talking to Jaguar fans after the game, and this team had thunder and lightning with Jimmy and Keenan. Right. And now this is the running back room version of thunder and lightning, if they can capture it.
And I agree. Yeah. I agree with that. I think they need them both. I think that neither one of them is going to have to carry the ball 20 times a game. I think you're going to be able to mix and match it. Yeah. And I think that's a plus for us right now because it's a completely different game. Now, Bigsby can catch the ball as well. Even though he lost one last year, he's got pretty good hands. Yeah. So with the screen passes and all that, listen, if we're getting pressure on the quarterback, they had a big screen in that game. Beautiful. Yeah. Get it out there. Let them run the football.
Right, because they haven't run the screen game very well.
No, they did the other day.
Right. This is in the Doug time that he's been here, they haven't run the screen game very well. Right. Now we saw the wide receiver get involved, the running back get involved in the screen game. And the other part of it is that I do think Press quit pressing as much with his play sheet as well and said we've got to commit to these 2 things and then we open up the big plays. Right. So think about it, Coach. That 85-yard connection from Trevor to Brian Thomas, in large part because the defense has to respect what can happen below that. And I'm telling you what, that guy is a merchant of speed, is he not?
Yeah. I think he's faster than 4.3. I don't think that there's anybody in the league that can catch him one-on-one. If he gets a step on you, he's running away from almost everybody. And really, it's the other interesting thing about it is my son and I were watching the Minnesota game with Jefferson that was on at 9:30 over in London. Right. And he made the comment, he goes, boy, that guy is the real deal. Yeah. And I made the comment in that game to him. I said, yep, we've got one that might be able to do that. Yeah, yeah. And, of course, he did it.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. Game. Yeah, and one of our texters yesterday, Kryreek, he was referring to Tyreek. Yeah. He said, we got a cheetah here now. Yeah. And heck, just call him a Jaguar. Yeah. Because that's what he is. He is jag fast. And he just looks – there's certain players out there that make things look difficult or that are difficult look easy. And right now, Brian Thomas Jr. is kind of doing that right now.
Yeah, and you know what? He's a pretty good route runner, although Well, I said I wasn't going to say anything negative, but on the drive that we went 3 and out, just like we did at Miami, the one before we had to go to win it,
right?
3 passes, both he and Gabe Davis, neither one of them came back to the football to catch the ball.
Gotcha.
And the DB was able to reach in and knock the ball out of both of them.
Yeah, you got to do that.
You got to come back. If you're running a hook or anything like that, you got to push the guy and then not push him literally, but push him speed-wise and come back. And Thomas ought to be able to do that 90% of the time because he's going to push the guy off. Yeah. There's no question about it.
He's going to make him freak that he could
You're going to go by
run
him.
right past him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which that's the beautiful part of it. If you're a really good route runner, they can embarrass or show up a few of those guys.
And being a rookie, that's why you're saying this kid has a high upside because those kind of things will come natural to him once he gets the number of the reps.
All right, let's just hit a couple of other things, including what happened on the sideline with Gabe Davis and Trevor Lawrence. And it's not like it happens all the time, but it also, we're naive if we say it doesn't happen. There's going to be friction between players. They can have a disagreement and get over it. You used to have disagreements with your players. You're like, this isn't a game if I don't have a disagreement.
Yeah. You, in the emotion of a game, some things are said.
Right.
And then the next, 30 seconds later, you're hugging everybody.
It's forgotten.
That's it. That's part of the game. That's the emotion of the game.
So the positives then out of Gabe and Trevor with a little disagreement or dust up. Because Gabe didn't necessarily play his best game, but at the same time, if he's going to do that, it's on spotlight back on him too.
Well, what had happened there was it was the play that he ran a dig route, an inside break-in route.
Right.
Trevor threw the ball underneath. The things we're talking about. Take a profit, right? He took a profit. Well, if you look at the play, Cam Robinson got knocked back a little bit on that one. And Trevor had the feeling that he was going to get knocked back into him, and he did what he's supposed to do. He didn't wait for the corner, the dig route to come in there.
Right.
He dumped it down to number 85.
Sure.
And listen, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
You know, he's got to make that decision. Now, is he a little antsy every once in a while? With that offensive line we've had, I don't blame him.
Yeah, and he's overcoming that a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, because antsy before meant the spin move and running in the wrong direction. That did not happen.
Right.
You saw more poise, patience, and for that matter, belief in himself that I've got to hang in here, and I've got to get rid of the football.
This is the best game he's played.
It really is.
I think it was the best game he played in the whole time he's been here, to be perfectly honest with you. There's been other games, but he did what he had to do to win that game, and he was a big factor in that game.
Yeah, it's funny because I go back and that late 2022 run where I think he had 12 touchdowns and 1 turnover. It was some kind of good, but this was 28 of 34, a career high 371, 2 touchdowns. We obviously remember the beautiful throws, but then also just the fact that he was able to mix it up. And on the sneak, they made good decisions, and they did it a couple of times.
Right.
And so all things considered, there's a lot of positives. So now let's get to the possibility of 3 and 4. Or excuse me, 3 and 4. Yeah. If you go to London with this renewed confidence, defense is still going to struggle. They're meeting a maybe maturing Caleb Williams because his numbers were pretty good the other day. But they've got to make sure that they don't waste this win. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's it's going to be a tough game. I mean, my son Tommy, again, I bring him up because he and I watch the games together when I'm watching them at home.
Yeah.
And he's a Bears fan.
Yeah. Okay.
And he said, "Dad, I can tell you one thing: they're not going to score 30+ points on the Bears." Yeah. And I said, "Yeah, that might be right." I think that defense is a better defense, obviously, than the one they just played, for sure.
Yeah.
Caleb has improved from week to week.
Yeah.
He started out with a 50 rating, then it went to 75, then it went to 90, then it went to 119 this last one, I think. So it's going to be a tough game. But if our offensive line plays like they did in this ball game, we've got a chance to do some good things. I think we have to shore some things up on defense, but listen, anything's possible in this league.
Well, the Bears are favored in this game. I think that might surprise some people, but it is that defense that you're talking about, and the fact that he has been able to stitch together some wins. I want to say all of their games at home have been wins, and so we'll see. When we get to the end of the week, you'll give us a little Eberflus intel because you know him, head coach of the Chicago Bears, so we'll do that on XL Primetime. But right now, a dub in Duval, and you will happily take it. You had to wait till October to get it, but dang it, you got it, right?
Yep, that's right. We won, and you can't get to number 2 without number 1.
Yeah, and by the way, they were number 2 before this, so now they've got 1.
Yeah.
All right, Coach, we are done. Joe C., talk to you on XL Primetime. Our head coach, Dave Campo. Always appreciate you guys hanging out with us.